guys asked for it, and I'm bringing it to you. Here it is, the Beneath the Surface series, where I basically take some topic of discussion that you guys voted on in the comment section below, and I did my homework on it, researched it, and now I'm giving you my opinion. Now remember, post your ideas for next week, and we'll just kick it off right away. This was very easy for me because I've already done my homework on the topic. But before we really go into my opinion, let me just say this. If you look at Australia's crime rates versus Mexico's, they both have equally strict gun laws. Australia's crime rates are not that high, but Mexico's are just, they blow everyone's out of the fucking water. And you may say, okay, well, duh, that's because Mexico's crime rates are based on the fact that the drug cartels run the fucking country. And I would say, okay, that makes sense, and that's exactly my point. It's not a question of gun control. It's a question of what is going on in society. Is there social decay going on? So, if you have all this crime going on, is it really the guns, or is it something deeper? And when you ask that question, I feel like people almost get a little nervous, because all of a sudden, you're lost in the woods. You don't have your silver bullet solution anymore. People say, you take away the guns, crime goes away. Well, Mexico is probably the perfect example of how that's just not true at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The crime goes through the fucking roof because, let's be real here, if someone wants to hurt you, they'll either do it with a gun or a lead pipe or a knife or a butterfly knife or whatever the fuck it is that they have, or a ninja star. Who knows? So, you gotta ask, what's really going on here? Is it the guns? I mean, it could be. You know, if you have a nation where everyone's running around with a gun, then maybe. But I think it goes deeper than that. And I don't really have a stance on gun control. I can go either way. I think on some level, people should be able to protect themselves, but I don't know if everyone should be able to run around with an M16 and an RPG. I don't know if we should have that. But I do know what really matters. And I think that social decay is what the problem is. And if you don't believe me, then just let's talk about it a little bit. Because I do know that 1 in 4 women over the age of 35 are taking antidepressants. And that says something. That says that we got a lot of women out there who are just not dealing with their problems. And if the women aren't dealing with their problems, I bet you that transfers over to the men. And I bet you that transfers over to society. We lived in a very drugged up culture. Let's be real here. You know, kids are taking Adderall. Women are taking antidepressants. And on top of that, antidepressants have been shown to cause suicidal and homicidal tendencies. And Prozac is the main culprit here. And a lot of antidepressants already fucking do this, man. And it starts at a young age. You know, you're told as a kid, oh, well, you have ADHD or you have ADD, so here's Adderall. Well, I'll tell you something. That Adderall is almost as bad as cocaine. It is classified in the same addiction category as cocaine. And you're giving it to a kid who wants to stare at the fucking clouds all day. Of course kids want to run around and play. They're filled with fucking energy. That's what they're meant to do. They're supposed to run around and, you know, they have 40,000 years of DNA that's just pounded into them where they need to start learning how to hunt. They need to run around. They have all this fucking energy. And they're being told to sit in class for 8 hours a day. Of course they want to run around. The problem isn't their mental state. The problem is the education paradigm, in my opinion. I think that we live in a very weird education system where it's about memorizing knowledge, regurgitating it onto a test. It's not about, you know, everyone becoming really awesome members of society. Because if the education system was really designed around, you know, bringing, you know, the best out of people and turning everyone into a valid member of society, then why don't we wait for everyone to get 100% in class? Why don't we work on the weakest link? Shouldn't that be the measure of the classroom, the weakest link? And I know that's how teachers normally operate, but I think everyone should learn powerful ideas. And on top of that, not just read some boring ass fucking statistics from a textbook that are indisputable. So you have that combined with the fact that a lot of us are drugged up, and then you also have the news. Have you guys ever turned on the news channel? Have you seen how depressing that shit is? You know, I remember a few years ago I turned on the news channel and some lady microwaved her fucking baby. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And, you know, you get this really weird and, in my opinion, skewed perception of what reality really is, because the news focuses on these pockets of negativity spread throughout the country. Yeah, some lady, you know, maybe, you know, a few miles away microwaved her baby, but they don't talk about the kid who maybe raised a few $1,000s for charity. They don't talk about the guy who helped, you know, a group of old women across the street. They don't talk about the guy who maybe rehabilitated, you know, 5 or 6 hobos. No, that doesn't get played on the news. And what does get played on the news is this awful, depressing shit. You know, you go on CNN, there's always some breaking headline. New violence has popped up in this part of the country. New rape, new pedophilia, new, crazy mass shooting. And that's fine, and I think people should be educated on what the fuck is going on. But when you have an over-monopolization of this just complete depression, anger type mindset, it fucks everything up. I have family that are from Canada, and they say that, they don't lock their doors at night. Because why? Everyone's nice, everybody's friendly, why the fuck should we care? I mean, of course there's bad areas, just like any other country, but for the most part, they say just nobody worries about that shit. And, we're taught that there's always some spooky bad guy who goes bump in the night, and you have to lock your door, and if you don't lock your door, better watch out, someone's gonna come in and fucking rob you. And I don't think it's like that. I think people, for the most part, are similar. Not, evil versus good, but shades of gray. I've said this before. You feel the same emotions that Hitler feels. You feel the same emotions that Shakespeare feels. You feel the same emotions that Martin Luther King feels, for fuck's sake. So, how do we engineer society so it's more positive, so it's more upbeat? Well, I know one thing is that it's not as simple as taking away the guns. We can look at a very easy correlation that most of the mass shootings in the past few years, most of these people that, did that awful stuff were on antidepressants. They were on antipsychotics. And paradoxically enough, or hypocritically enough, those drugs induce psychotic tendencies like homicidal behavior and suicidal behavior. So what the fuck is really going on? I'm not taking anything away from antidepressants. There are people that have legitimate chemical imbalances in their brain and they need them. But 1 in 4 women over the age of 35, nah. Sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm buying that people may be having some really bad shit going on in their life, and rather than dealing with it and saying, okay, what do I need to do to improve myself as a human being, they say, yeah, I'll take the pill. I'll take the pill so I don't have to deal with it. So that way I can pick the kids up from school, and I can have the smile on my face, even though deep down inside I feel like a piece of shit. So, what do? Well, I've just introduced a bunch of X factors into the equation. And, if you say, well, the education system is fine, and, I think pharmaceutical drugs are fine, let's look at Chicago. Let's look at the inner city of Chicago, one of the worst places in the United States, a true example of social decay. Do you think a kid could really get an honest education from the inner city of Chicago? I know that he's put at an incredible disadvantage to a regular kid in a public school in maybe a nice suburb. Why is that there? I'm not talking about a socialist idea. I'm talking about giving kids an equal opportunity in life. And it's very true that an inner city school, public school for that matter, is way worse than a public school in a nice suburb. And that has to do with tax districts, but I'm not going to get into that. The point is it makes much more sense for this kid to start dealing drugs, who's in the inner city, to make shitloads of money, because let's be real here, you can work 8 hours at McDonald's or you can work 8 hours on the corner, you're going to get a lot more money on the corner. And you're going to make a lot more money fucking up other people's lives. And drugs and crime go hand in hand, my man. They go hand in fucking hand. So, what do? Well, all of a sudden, we're faced with a whole slew of new problems. Okay, well, we need to reformat the education system. Okay, we need to fix the news. We need to make it less awful and depressing. I mean, let's be real here. The government just, legitimized a law a few years ago that said they're allowed to spread propaganda, which has not been in place for a very long fucking time. They're allowed to show propaganda, which is basically where they're allowed to skew your opinion on anything they fucking want. This isn't me being a conspiracy theorist. It's just the fact of the matter. Why does the NDAA even exist? The NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act, which essentially makes America a fucking battleground. And it essentially makes it so that you can be held without trial, without a jury of your peers, without a lawyer. Why? What do we have to be afraid of? I'm not afraid of my neighbor. I'm not even afraid of the people in the fucking ghetto. They're, similar to me. We felt the same feelings. Yeah, maybe I might have a better lifestyle, but that doesn't mean that they're awful people. It means that we're all people and we're all just trying to get by in life. So, people don't want to look at that, though. People don't want to look at the fact that, hey, maybe this is a complex problem, and maybe we need a lot of complex solutions. Maybe this is an example of social decay, rather than saying, well, we can just take away the guns and society will become amazing. No, it won't, motherfucker. It won't. That's the reality. The reality is, is that gun control will not fix violence. You'll still have the psychotic kids who will run in school with knives instead of guns. Now, if I'm really trying to, I guess, put my foot down one way or the other, you know, from my understanding, criminals don't get legitimate guns. I mean, I know you can, but if a dude really wants to go to a school and shoot kids, he can obtain that gun illegally or legally. So, you know, all you're doing is taking away the guns from the people who are, you know, good bystanders of society. And, you know, these evil criminal people will probably just obtain a gun through some illegal method. Like, what the fuck? What have you really done? You've just made it harder for citizens to protect themselves against people that are psychotic, that are on antidepressants that nobody really needs. That's all you've done. And you've, you know, propagated that because, you know, when you see these interviews on the TV or these, you know, people, you know, put out these, like, 3-day-long newsreels of this crazy mass shooting and they give all this attention to the killer and then, you know, that might inspire a new killer. So, I think it's a complex problem, and I think it requires a very complex solution, one of which I don't think Congress has the balls to tackle. I think it's a matter of the people deciding individually, okay, I'm ready to create some fucking change. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do A, B, or C to make my community and the place that I live a more positive and uplifting place. I think it just comes down to that, man. But, you know, it's hard. It's hard because you throw that silver bullet out of the fucking window, and all of a sudden everything becomes much more complex and you're lost in the woods. Because, you know, Congress has a 10% approval rating. I think it might even be lower than that or higher. I don't know. I do know it's the lowest it's ever been in American history. I know that we have a system that is very flawed and needs to be fixed. But in order for that to fix, people need to get off of their ass and start doing shit. Even if it's something simple as just this YouTube channel. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as long as you're pushing towards something. Anyways, that does it for me. Guys, if you want me to talk about some other really cool idea, it could be anything funny, political, religious, spiritual, I don't give a fuck. Post in the comment section, and if you like what you see, then give that dude a like. That way, you know, we can organize this shit and be really professional. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If this riled you up a little bit, good. Be respectful. If you decide to be an asshole in the comment section, then I'm gonna have to ban you, and I don't want to do that. So be respectful, be critical, and let's try to get to the bottom of some things. So I enjoy seeing your comments. Anyways, I'm out. Peace, guys. I hope you have a wonderful fucking day. I'm out.